It's time for another episode of Hops and Hedges, where we talk everything beer and landscaping and everything in between. So crack open a cold one and let's dig in. And there we go. We are live and running. With me today on the show is Terry Childs, all the way from Gananoque. Welcome, Terry. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, and congratulations on the podcasts.
Thank
So
you.
far, they've been great.
Yeah, it's been quite the ride in a good way. Like it all came, I shouldn't say, well, it all came to a head, I would say, at Landscape Congress, right? Just another thing of networking and meeting people. And you have one conversation and it just put me into overdrive with the podcast. So it's
Yep.
like, man, I know some really great people. So why am I holding myself back?
Now I
should
just have to live up to all your previous guests.
Oh, I have no doubt in my mind that you are going to be just fine. So for those who don't know Terry, he's been around Landscape Ontario and landscaping for a while. You are with, your company is Nature's Way Landscaping in Gananoque, started in 1993. And I've had the chance to get to know you personally at Congress. Like I think that's where I meet you every year.
Yep. Well, for many years, I've been the chair of Congress.
Yeah, which is an incredible event. So
It
kudos
is.
to you and the whole team that puts that on. It is one of my two must-attend events every year. The other one being the Fall Summit for the peer-to-peer. So, so why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into landscaping and the whole start of Nature's Way? Where did this all come from?
I had two landscaping jobs when I lived in Milton. I went to high school in Milton.
Okay.
So
just a couple years ago?
Just a couple of years ago. Back then, there was only one high school, and there was not really any subdivisions.
Wow.
Or not in the same sense as there are now.
Yep.
But I went to a different route, and I went to George Brown to learn how to fix office equipment, business equipment. Then we got into a family business with my parents. And that worked well for a while, but then we kind of re-looked at how we were doing things, and my wife had, air quotes, a real job.
Yep, I used to have one of those.
Yeah. And she was pregnant, so I knew she was going to be off, and I had two part-time jobs.
Right.
I thought, well, one was in the evening, one was overnights, and we needed to have more income. So in the daytime, I'll start up a landscaping business. And I'd always been into organic growing, farming, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I started Nature's Way Landscaping and Organic Consultation Services in Brantford.
Wow.
And it moved on from there.
Holy smokes. It's so funny. The organic has become much more in the forefront, I would say, now.
Oh, yeah, I was a very big outlier. I did organic lawn care back then, and I actually advertised in St. Catharines, and a company in St. Catharines, and if I remember right, it was Outdoor Images, advertised in Brantford, both being organic lawn care companies. Knowing that we wouldn't get anyone else's business, but it made us look a little bit more legitimate because there was two of us.
Right.
And then it grew from there.
Wow. And now we have a whole client base that are requesting organic treatments and organic services and that sort of stuff. Right. So, wow, really cool. And you are a member of Landscape Ontario.
Yes, so, this is our 26th year coming up, I believe. 1998 is when I joined.
Yep. Okay.
25th, 26th year.
And you are sorry, what was that last part? My brain stopped working.
Quarter of a century.
Quarter of a century. Wow, that's one way to put it, eh?
Yeah.
Holy. Happy quarter century. So you are a very active member of Landscape Ontario.
Yes.
What sort of things have you done with Landscape Ontario specifically over the years?
Like positions within the association.
Yeah.
So I've been the Upper Canada chapter president, vice president. I'm currently the treasurer and the provincial board rep. Been on the provincial board. I've been the chair of Congress, on the professional workforce development committee. I'm also the Landscape Ontario member for CNLA on I forget the exact name of the title, but it's for their workforce development for I see, there you go. It's winter and we don't think in the winter very easily.
No, I'm very
Um,
much struggling over here
yeah,
in London,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we'll just
It's
struggle through
yeah,
together.
yeah. Professional development.
Yeah,
So all of the associations have a representative on CNLA
very
for
cool.
the different things. So yeah, I'm heavily involved in things locally and provincially and a little bit nationally.
Yeah, and then you're also you're either on or you head up the construction sector group as well, right?
Yeah, I'm the director of education, I guess, for the construction sector group. So we're actually starting to develop a toolkit
Okay.
for the members. We're working on some training initiatives for hopefully later this year, early next year.
Yeah.
We've been able to sort of revitalize that a little bit.
So you are such a busy guy. I am so grateful that you made a little bit of time out today to just come on the show and talk landscaping with me. Because
Oh, that's going to be fun.
you're like a landscape celebrity, I think.
No, that would be Sean.
That would be Sean. Okay, so we'll have to give him a call after this.
Actually, he's on a subcommittee with me as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right
for
on.
Fusion Landscapes.
Yeah, that was actually what I was going to ask you about next because so I also completed the Fusion Landscape Professional Training, which is so cool. Like once they opened it up to other cities, because Toronto was doing it for a long time. Like I think you could only be an FLP if you were either a resident of Toronto or a company that worked in Toronto. I forget how it worked.
You could do it, but you have to pay.
Right, and I think this time too, I still had to pay.
Yeah. So
But it's great that they opened it up.
yeah, most of the cities were subsidizing.
Yep.
So when I did mine, I had to pay I don't know, $600-700
Yep.
because my area wasn't subsidizing it. But
Gotcha.
Ottawa are just taking it on, and a few more places are looking at it. So I'm really surprised that the insurance industry haven't jumped on top of this, because
Right?
the savings that they're going to realize, if landscapers are able to deal with lot level water management, it could be easily into the millions.
And how it's going to be saving and taking pressure off of the city systems and
Yeah,
whatnot. So
yeah.
for those who are tuning in, Terry, because I think you'll be able to explain it better than I possibly could. So what is Fusion Landscape Professional? What is that training and why is it important?
I have a beef with the name of it because to me, fusion means absolutely nothing. But I think it's blending horticulture and rainwater mitigation.
Yep.
So basically, we design a property, and all my designs have always had a little bit of this in it anyway, prior to knowing anything about fusion, where we don't just allow the water to come out of the downspout and get channeled out to the road or put into the sewer system or something like that. So it'll be rain gardens, permeable walkways, driveways.
Yeah.
It's designed to take the water into the ground directly underneath from where it falls. So if it falls on your front yard, as much as we can, we'll absorb that water.
Right.
Whether it's immediately, whether it's a slow, we've got something that's slowly impregnating itself into the ground.
Yeah.
We do a rain garden where it's going to sit there and those plants are going to thrive in that moisture. So it's trying to mitigate the damage that excessive rain, because I think most of us realize we get more rain than we used to.
Yep.
Those 500-year storms or wherever they are now bi-weekly.
Right.
So it's an effort to try and deal with that, and it's specifically designed to be lot level.
Right.
So you've got a 100 by 100 lot. We'll design it as much as possible to take that water and put it back in the ground right there.
Mm-hmm. I know, like at Congress, at trade shows and things like that, I've often seen people. I think there's actually a childhood school or elementary science experiment that you can do where you actually see dirty water going through, like being poured out into a cup, like a drinking cup, and then dirty water being poured through grass and soil and subsoil and coming out, and it's almost clear.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what, to me, for fusion is on a lot size. So instead of having all of that rainwater come off the roof, down the downspout, across your driveway and into the street, everything that it's picked up on its way, all of its chemicals, all the road salt, fertilizers, it's not going right into the city storm sewers to be cleaned. It's actually being cleaned naturally.
And the storm sewers don't clean anything.
Right.
All the storm sewers are doing is collecting and dumping in a concentrate.
Right.
So, if the storm sewers for Kingston, and they unfortunately still have sewage lines connected to them, when they have a very heavy rainfall, the sewage is also going out into Lake Ontario.
Oof.
So it's almost like a mini Love Canal.
Right.
If you're enough to remember Love Canal, when in Buffalo, that area had all sorts of liquids coming out into the Niagara River.
Brutal. Nope, I don't remember that. I was actually, my brain kind of went to there was a serious flooding situation in Venice years ago where it has a similar, it's like, oh, let's go for a romantic gondola ride in sewage. That sounds like a grand time. Sign me up for that. Ugh. So before we talk more about landscaping and that kind of stuff, I'm wondering if you have a beer with you. And if you don't, that is absolutely okay. But I'm wondering what kind of beers you like to drink.
Well, it's 3:16.
3:16?
And I'm at work.
Oh, 3:16 p.m. Yeah, it is.
I'm at work, so no, we're not allowed to drink at work.
Mm.
But what I do have is Iron Brew.
And what is that?
It's a Scottish soft drink.
Okay. Never heard of that one. Iron Brew.
So it's not easily available. So any chance I get to get some, it just gives me memories of back home.
Yeah.
But beer-wise, most British cask beers, which are very hard to get over here because there's a lot less carbonation in them.
Right.
But for over here, Charlotteville Brewery, which is just south of Simcoe.
Okay.
They have an English pale ale and they have an English bitter.
Nice.
Which are both very good.
I know there's a brewery, I think in Norfolk. I think it's Norfolk, just north of Simcoe, that I like to go to. And I can't, this is the second time I've mentioned them on the podcast and the second time I'm going to have to look them up. But it's a converted public school.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah, really cute.
You can get pizza and stuff in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a really cool place. And I will look it up again and post it in the write-up of this episode when we put it live again.
Well, if I was doing this with my brother, he would know exactly what it is.
He'd know it?
Yeah.
Darn it. And it's a really cute place. I should remember what it's called. But anyway.
Because if I remember right, they even have fires there. Like the courtyard area inside the middle of the school has fires and stuff. It's
very cool.
Neat.
Mm-hmm. Place to visit for sure.
It is, and I'm thinking most of the craft breweries these days are trying to do something like that to make it more of a destination.
Right, and it's an experience. So it's not just, if people are going to drive out of their way for a beer, then what more can it be about, right?
Yeah. As long
Definitely
as the
more of an
beers are good
experience.
and there's something there when you get there, it's just a perfect experience.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you
I've
don't want to drive somewhere and only be able to drink beer
yeah,
because you're not going to be there very long unless you're drinking and driving.
right. Which we
So,
don't want
yeah,
people to
that's
be
right.
doing
So
anyway.
when there's some atmosphere and you
Yeah.
can sit around a fire and talk and have something to eat, it's perfect.
I've got a an IPA because that's normally what I'm doing. So this is a melon IPA from Refined Fool in Sarnia. And this one makes me giggle because it's called Darren's Internet Search History. And my husband's name is Darren, and that's how he spells his name. So every time I get this one, it makes me giggle because my husband does not like melon or IPAs. And this one is called, yeah, Darren's Internet Search History. And there's a whole bunch of really weird uh,
Yeah,
images
neat.
on there.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. My wife's favorite beers are IPAs. I've gotten off of IPAs. I liked them, and then they just kind of went out of flavor for a little bit with me.
yep.
But Wendy just still loves them. And there's a brewery in Kingston, another craft brewery called Fine Balance. Uh,
Okay.
so that has her favorite beers and my son's favorite beers. And
I'll have to
yeah,
add that one to my list.
yeah, he has a running group and they run from the brewery. They do however many kilometers they do, and they end up back at the brewery and have a drink.
Oh, I love that. That may be one of the very few things that could maybe get me motivated to run. I am not a runner.
That's why they
I,
invented bicycles and motorbikes and cars and
you know,
everything else.
yeah, like I would rather cycle than
Yeah.
run. It just doesn't sound like fun to me. I often say that the phrase goes run for your life, not run for fun.
Yes.
Nobody says, "Oh, run for fun," but people say run for your life. Like
Yeah.
that's when I'll run if I'm
Yeah.
being chased. And I probably won't get very far because I don't run. Uh so for I love the background that you have right now.
Oh, thank you. That's Nova Scotia.
Yeah. And that's one of your favorite places to vacation and to go
Yes.
to. And so have you got a cottage out there or a family out there or
Well, my daughter lives out there, and we
Mhm.
bought a property out there a few years ago that I try and get down to once every month and a half, 2 months, and do work on it. It's definitely a fixer-upper,
Yep.
but it's potentially our retirement home. So right now we
Hmm.
live out in the country, which is really nice with lots of land. This is in the town of Bridgewater, and I can walk to either of the two craft brewers in town and the grocery
Bonus.
store. So all the advantages you have of living in a town are there.
Yeah.
So we're deciding where we're gonna end up at the end of the day. But it's nice because I
Gotcha.
go down there, and one of the first things I do is have a beach walk
Yep.
on one of the probably a dozen beaches within a 20-minute, 30-minute drive.
Oh man, that sounds awesome. I have a little bit of I don't know if it's an addiction or a thing for, I don't know how you'd put it, but I love collecting beach stones and
Mhm.
pebbles. To the point where actually I don't know if I think you can probably see it, but that
Yep.
little plastic carrying tote thing are all beach stones that are waiting to be they go through a like a polisher. I've got
Mhm.
friends who have a polishing machine and it's full.
Oh, neat.
So I love collecting rocks. So usually I have a very bad sunburn on my back when I go to the beach because I'm bent over and I'm like
Okay.
combing the beach, which just made me think of Spaceballs. Comb the desert. I don't know if you like Spaceballs, but
I've never
like,
seen him.
oh no. That is going to be the poll question for this podcast episode. Have you ever seen Spaceballs? Oh man. Do you consider yourself a Star Wars fan? We're getting off the topic of
Nope.
landscaping, but no.
Nope. Nope.
Well
Star
then
Trek, yes. Star Wars, no.
I'm one of those weird ones. I like them both. I like Star Wars and Star Trek. So, but yeah, if you're not into Star Wars, you probably won't
Yeah.
get much out of Spaceballs, but that's one of my favorite movies. So favorite plants. And I'm actually going to, if I can get this thing to work properly, let's see if I can do this. because I thought I would actually bring up some of these plants. So when you in the podcast questionnaire, you
Yep.
mentioned plants with purple foliage.
Yep.
And this is one of the ones that you named, the Diablo 9 bark.
Yeah.
And Physicarpus is actually an Ontario native,
Yes.
right? So the purple one isn't technically native, but
No.
this plant,
It's a where's there a nativar?
nativar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Diablo is one of the nativars. So it's a cultivar based from a native plant. But this one, it is always humming with pollinators, even the Diablo. So whether it's the green, the straight native, or this one, for me, it's a shrub that makes noise in the landscape. It is always humming with activity. I thought it was so cool that you mentioned purple foliage, because my personal favorite planting combinations in gardens are yellows and the deep purples. So not just burgundy, but that really, really dark purple foliage with chartreuse and yellows. I just love that. Even this picture here, does this one? Yeah. So I love this sort of look in a garden, that high contrast of color.
Yeah. And I'll often put, what's the other one I had down there? I have her on my list. It was like there's a bug bane.
Yep. So that's this one here.
Yes.
The Simicifuga. And that's, I think it's just called chocolate or chocoholic. Yeah, chocoholic. There's chocolate and chocoholic bug name.
Yeah, I thought there was a different name, but who knows? But it's something that I try and put in a lot of my designs. Just even if there's once I have one commercial property that we still do maintenance on. Yeah. Everything is green.
Gotcha.
Except there's 3 of the bug bane in there.
Okay.
And they really stand out.
Yeah.
So every time I go past, it's like, oh yeah, I put that in. That's great. And then you have the tall spikes of flowers.
Yeah, just stunning. Like it's really, really cool. And even when the flowers die back or you cut them back, the foliage itself is quite stunning, right? Against those the greens. Yeah, and I think no, maybe that's a spirea. I can't quite tell. It's too far away. But like Sun King Aurelia, so you have that bright chartreuse green in there. Yeah. So these were the 2 that you said, and for some reason I can't. Excuse me while I try and fidget with my screen here. So I wanted to show some of my personal favorites because I'm similar. I love purple foliage. And something that I don't think gets enough credit is purple basil.
Yeah, we had that a few years ago in our garden.
Right? And I know it's an annual, it's an herb, but I almost always incorporate purple. Wow. I'm creating my own words. Purple basil into most of my planter displays, especially on front porches, decks, or entranceways. Because as you walk past it, you can't help but get that smell. Yeah. And it's that unexpected. Yeah. I just love that.
It's also there for clients to use. One of my first jobs in Brantford was someone wanted a vegetable garden or a perennial garden. Yeah. But they didn't have much space. And they also had a problem with people cutting across the lawn because they're on the corner house. So we did a garden going from the corner of the porch to basically the corner of the lawn where the 90-degree sidewalk was. Yeah. And there's a bunch of different shrubs in there, but there was also vegetable plants in it. So I had tomatoes, herbs, that type of thing. Huh. So they had the best of both worlds. They could go out with the tomatoes. There was the foliage, then there were the flowers, then there were the green fruit, and there were the red fruits. Yep. And it worked out excellent.
I don't tend to grow a lot of edibles, fruits or vegetables. My house is mostly part shade, but we've got a few sunny spots, and tomatoes are something that I grow every year. Yeah. I find them easy-ish. You just have to remember to water them regularly, and then they stay pretty happy.
Regular.
Yeah. Regularly-ish.
They are forgiving at times.
Yeah. So another one that I really like is the purple smoke bush.
Yes.
So royal purple.
Yeah.
It's so funny because actually, even in this picture from a distance, it kind of looks like a massive barberry.
Yes,
Um,
it does.
a berberis, which is
Yeah.
actually on the invasive species list.
Yes, I just realized that not long ago.
Yeah. So,
So I have
which
to change
is
the invasive species list.
yeah, there's a few on there that I was like, huh, I didn't know that because there's
Yeah.
some barberries that I think are quite stunning, but we'll have to be a little bit more careful with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
No, we just had a client who had a purple smoke bush. She'd asked us to prune off a couple of branches. It was right on the right on Lake Ontario in Kingston,
yeah,
and she wanted two branches cut off it.
right.
So or she wanted some branches cut off it so she could still get down to the water.
Yep.
So we pruned off two branches. And just over a week later, I got her a call saying, I think you guys cut the wrong branches off. I said, but yeah, they did it almost 2 weeks ago. She says, yeah, but I haven't been at home in the daylight, so I haven't seen it. So this was on a Saturday. So I went
Okay.
around the next day and I thought, oh, geez, I got to talk to the guys about that because it was like it was a foot off the ground. But this was a smoke bush that was probably 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
Like it was massive. And then when I got closer, I realized it was beaver.
No way.
We took two branches off. The beaver took the rest of it a week later.
Wow. I have not run into that situation.
Nope, me neither. In 31 years, this was the first time we'd had that. They took
Holy.
some willow out on the driveway,
Yeah.
and so we were when we are going to replant them next year, we were going to wrap them with chicken wire so we'd protect them. Didn't even think about anything on the lakeside, and it's Lake Ontario. It's not known for its
Yeah.
beaver dams.
Huh. Very interesting. Yep. That would be a first for me. Wow. The things that we come across in landscaping.
Oh, I know.
Every day it's different,
Yes.
which is something that I really do love about this profession. So the last one really quickly that I just wanted to share was the Ruby Falls Redbud. So
Oh,
again,
that's
another
nice.
native because the Cercis canadensis, that's one of the natives for
Yeah.
Ontario. But this one is a weeping variety with purple leaves. And you do have those the blooms in springtime, right? It almost looks like a High-gone
Yes.
cherry. Like it's just
Mhm.
stunning.
It
And
is.
then for the rest of the year, you actually do have like deep purple foliage. And the closer
Yeah.
it is towards the trunk, you do get kind of dark greens.
Yeah.
But that's one of my personal favorites of purple foliage. So thanks for coming along our purple foliage plant journey there with us for a moment.
Perfect.
That was great. So what else was I going to ask you? So we were talking about plants and whatnot. So there was how much? Oh, we've got like 8 minutes left. We're good. I want to know a little bit about this project on Wolf Island that you did. So Wolf Island, meaning it's an island.
Yeah.
So you have to like ferry stuff in?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
the nice
talk to
thing
me
is,
about this.
well, the nice thing is you can put a transport on the ferry.
Oh, that's nice.
So and it doesn't cost anything,
Oh,
which is even nicer. So
right.
it's an extension of the highways.
Yep.
They've actually had it's just a diesel ferry that's not new. They've had a battery powered one for the last 2 years sitting
Hmm.
on the island, but the ferry was built prior to the provincial government getting its act together and putting all the infrastructure in there.
Right.
So we've used it once because the original ferry died and they had to do some repairs, so they brought the electric one in.
Huh.
But yeah, it can get tough at times because it's busy. It's in the summer, it's very busy.
Yeah.
So it's only a 20-25 minute journey across.
Mm-hmm.
But you may have to, be there an hour before to get onto
Right.
that ferry. Sometimes we miss ferries,
Yeah.
but it takes you to a completely different world.
Huh.
which is really neat. But it's a family from Toronto who they'd had this property for years, they rebuilt the old farmhouse. The barn had kind of fallen down, so they had a garage built there, and then the back of that was the old stockade. And she'd always wanted a swimming pool, but didn't want to have a swimming pool. So I
Hmm.
suggested that we would do a swimming pond, so
Yeah.
natural pond. So by the end of the day, we got it all figured out. I did the design. We did some test digging, and bedrock was about 8 inches below ground. So they had a choice of we would hoe ram out to 5 feet, or would build up to 5 feet and then build all the landscape up around it.
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up doing. But she has a 20 by 40 pond that that we have wetland filters on and natural skimmers, but
Wow.
also a heater,
Yep.
a couple of external pumps. So when she went up occasionally in the summer, she now goes up all the time in the summer.
Right.
So then the summer kitchen went in, and we got retaining walls all around the pond and all the plants. And she showed me a picture of a country home in Oxfordshire, England, that she wanted to mimic.
Huh.
So I was able to interlock that, two big slabs that if we ran them alternately, it mimicked this limestone pathway that she had. And then there's
Cool.
lavender on either side of it. And then that transformed into, okay, well, we need to get from the house to this place. So we had to put a walkway in for that. And
Yep.
all the lighting in, and then the outdoor heaters for the back porch, and the outdoor kitchen
Wow.
has heaters in it. So I actually just got my last piece of my last 2-drawer cabinet from Napoleon,
Okay.
because everything from back order, so we can actually finish the kitchen this spring. The
Amazing.
granite is there, but it hasn't been fastened down because they've got to wait for it to be warmer. But yeah, no, it's been a great project.
And
That we've
so
been able to do over 4 years, which was nice.
that's what I was just going to ask you, because a lot of times I find maybe members of the general public really have no idea how long these things can take.
Yeah.
Right. And the sort of budget, like there really isn't. It's one thing to do a front garden entranceway. Okay. But when you're talking outdoor kitchen and you're talking pool, you're ferrying because the location is
Yeah.
on an island. This is not going to be a one season
No,
thing.
no. And if it
So
was a 1 season thing, it would take us out of contention for that whole year, which then, from experience with other members of Landscape Ontario, can really put in the next few years of jeopardy,
yeah.
because you're not available to do any work. So you can still advertise,
Right.
you can still be in business, but every time someone calls you, you can't fit anything in, and they find
Yeah.
someone else, they find someone else. So
Mhm.
this worked out well, that we could spread it over 4 years.
Well, and there's a lot of times too that I think homeowners, it's mutually beneficial because you as the
Yes.
contractor aren't dedicated to only service them and their project, but then also financially for the homeowner, they can implement it in phases, in chunks.
Yeah.
Right. Which is huge. It doesn't
Yes.
always have to be a one and done thing.
Yeah.
It can always be done in stages.
Yes.
So,
and especially this one, because it's their cottage, and it's a couple of 100 meters from the house to where the gardens and everything are. There's an area that we can stockpile materials.
nice.
We typically have a skid steer over there all year, because if we have a week that we can't do anything else, or we have a natural break somewhere, we can get over and get something else done. So often, we sort of spend a week and a half in the spring getting everything cleaned up and ready. And then again in the fall, and then somewhere in the summer, there's usually 4 to 5 weeks worth of work, but we can often fit that in, which really benefits us.
That's awesome. Man, I've not done an island designer install, but it's on the bucket list. So, or even just
It
like
can
a
be
cottage
stressful.
garden. Oh, I
It can be
betcha.
stressful, but what isn't in this business?
Right. I often say that I would rather be stressed out though, instead of bored.
Yes.
And that's something I personally struggle this time of year. Because as a designer, I'm only doing designs. And a lot of times people even don't start thinking about designs until March or
I
April.
should get you to come up here and you can help me with the designs I'm working on right now.
Perfect. I need a little
But
vacation anyway.
it's
I'm
hard
on my way.
when the weather's like this
Yeah.
to do designs because
Yeah.
you aren't mentally in that phase.
I'm not. I'm not feeling very creative.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling very productive. I look outside and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a struggle. So anyway, we've just got about a minute left. So I just wanted to touch really quickly that you may or may not be hiring at the time that this airs, but people can always contact you through Nature's Way Landscaping, right? Online?
Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So we
No,
have less than a
always
minute.
hiring.
Awesome. We are probably going to get cut off, but
No
Terry, thank you
problem.
so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Heather.
So Nature's Way Landscaping out in Gananoque, Ontario.
Yep.
And I look forward to possibly having you on the show again for Terry Part 2. What do you think?
Perfect. That'd be great.
Excellent. Thanks,
Okay.
Terry. I will see you
Thanks.
again.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That concludes this week's episode. Tune in every Wednesday for someone new and some new brew. Don't forget to click the follow button to stay in touch. See you next time.